Hi, my name's Hugh from the Mini and BMW Specialist, and today I'm going to give you a buyer's guide to this, the BMW 1 Series second generation. This is designated the F20 for the 3-door or the F21 for the 5-door. The car has got quite a wide range of engines, all the way from the 114i to the 140i, from the diesels, the 114D to the 125D. Now, I'm not going to cover the M cars in this video. I'm just going to cover up to the 2-litre petrol, up to the 2-litre diesel. Designed to compete with the likes of the Audi A3 and the Golf, this is BMW's attempt at the premium small car market. It comes with a decent sized boot. And in this 5-door model, you end up with a reasonable amount of room in the back. Now, I'm 6'2" and this seat is set for me. You're not going to get a lot of room in the back, but then again, you could say the same pretty much any car I drive. But for most people who average height, you're going to get decent leg room. Now, being a BMW, the options list is extensive. You can have sunroof, leather, heated, automatic, blah, blah, blah. You can have anything you like pretty much. So price of the car often depends on the spec, and certainly the condition and the service history. Engine-wise, I would split this into two distinct groups, pre and post facelift. The pre-facelift petrol had the engine derived from the Mini Cooper S, and in this incarnation it's known as the N13. The 114, 116, 118 and 120 are all a 1.6 litre turbocharged engine in various states of tune. The 125 is the BMW N20 engine, also turbocharged, also 2 litre. The pre-facelift diesels are all based on the N47 engine, which is notorious for snapping chains, and I can't recommend them. I've rebuilt too many, and the rebuild costs are now probably more than the value of the car. If you want a diesel in one of these, I'd go for the post-facelift model. The post-facelift diesels use the 1.5 3-cylinder and the 4-cylinder 2 litre. These engines are pretty solid. They do have one or two problems along the way, which are easily rectified. And unlike the N47, I've never had to do a cam chain replacement or a rebuild. So far so good on that one. Cabin-wise, this is all very standard BMW. You have pretty much everything where you'd expect it to be. You have an iDrive controlling the screen. This particular car's got an upgraded iDrive screen. I'm not going to go into that too much. You can fairly easily swap them out. That's the original. And the one that's fitted is actually an Android unit with CarPlay. So it's quite an easy and attractive upgrade, but we're not going to talk about that today. The car is keyless start, so you need to unlock the door with the button, but once you're in, there's no keyhole, there's just a start button. Press the clutch or press the brake for an automatic, and the car starts up as you'd expect. So what do they like to drive? Well, let's see. So unlike the competitors in this segment, this car's rear-wheel drive. Golf, Audi, etc. are all front-wheel drive. Now that makes it much more of a driver's car, particularly in the more powerful engines. Now, that said, I was talking to a highways agency guy on one occasion when I was broken down and waiting for recovery, not in a BMW by the way. He said the most dangerous motorway in this region with the Midlands is the M54, because a lot of it is concrete, and you get cars like this, particularly the 3-litre versions, rear-wheel drive, and because there's no speed cameras down that motorway, a lot of people use it as a bit of a speed run. Because this is rear-wheel drive on a concrete motorway, after a bit of rain, it becomes very slippy. You try and race one of these, the back wheels break away, you end up going backwards down the motorway and having a crash. So there can be a bit of a handful in the more powerful version, certainly being rear-wheel drive. Nonetheless, in the dry, in good conditions, good tyres, they are very much more a driver's car, I would say, the front-wheel drive competitors. Unfortunately, however, the next generation of BMW 1 Series is front-wheel drive. That's actually based on the Mini platform. So the other thing to mention with the next generation one of these is the largest engine they have in that range is a 2 litre. In this range, we have the 135 and the 140, both 3 litres. Straight 6, rear-wheel drive, much more of what you'd expect a powerful BMW to be. I'm not saying that the 2-litre version of the next generation car isn't powerful, because it is. But there's a difference in driving dynamics. So 40 miles an hour on a dual carriageway, there's a bit of road noise, very smooth, very quiet, and certainly feels a lot bigger than the car actually is. Performance, well, that obviously depends on which engine you've got under the bonnet. This one is a 1.6i, it's the N13 engine, and it's about 134 horsepower in this model. The same engine in the 118i is 170 horsepower, so quite a big uplift. Things to look for in a second-hand BMW 1 Series of this generation. If you're going to go for the pre-facelift petrol, look out for the cam chain changes that really need doing after 10 years. It's age and mileage, I would say. So about 80,000 miles or 10 years, you're going to need a cam chain. If it hasn't had one, budget for that. Oil leaks. The N13 engine in particular is known for oil leaks, and this isn't because it's a bad engine, it's just because rubber gets old, and when the rubber starts to get hard, it stops being rubber-like and stops sealing. So there are a number of areas where you can get oil leaks, rocker cover gasket, oil filter housing, sump perhaps. So oil leaks are things to look for on these older cars. Now, I've mentioned diesels. If you're going to go for a diesel, I would ignore the N47, and that's just because I've had too many of those in my workshop being rebuilt for snap chains. Post-facelift petrols, the 1.5 and the 2 litre, really good units. We do get one or two problems with Vanos actuators and so on, but on the whole they're pretty good. They certainly do the mileage. The one thing to avoid in the petrol certainly is a remapped car. Now, I'm going to get a lot of arguments probably with people saying, oh, remapping's fine. I disagree. I've rebuilt too many of these with that engine, that 3 and 4 cylinder generation of engine, because they're already highly stressed. One of the issues with the remapping is you overfuel, and when you overfuel, you're basically putting more petrol into the cylinder, and it can stress the injector. And then after you stop the engine, the injector can drip petrol into the cylinder. You get bore washing, which means when you start the car, there's no lubrication on the side walls of the cylinder, and then for the first several seconds of startup, there's no lubrication and you get extra wear. Now, over a period of time, this causes problems. I've rebuilt a remapped Mini Cooper S 4-cylinder 2 litre, the same engine in this for the facelift, that had been remapped, and it needed 4 new pistons, cylinder liners. It needed a lot of work, and that car had done 38,000 miles on a 20 plate. So it was 5 years old, 40,000 miles. You wouldn't expect it. The diesels of that generation are all pretty solid as well. There are one or two things to look for. One of them is the diesel pressure sensor can leak diesel into the loom. Now, I've got a video on that on my website. You can have a look, and it's an easy fix if you catch it early. If you catch it late, you're talking a new engine loom and potentially a new ECU. It's caused by a fault in the earlier pressure sensors, which has been engineered out in the later ones. So once you've fixed it, it's fixed. The other problem with the diesels, which is not unique to BMW, is that they carbon up. Carbon in these most recent of the engines now is the biggest problem. If you don't drive the car very far, it doesn't get properly hot, and carbon builds up and starts to choke the car. So swirl flaps can choke up, exhaust back pressure sensor can complain, which will then stop the car from regenning the DPF. But these are fairly minor things and fairly easy things to fix. Finally then, always buy a car with good service history. All the service history on the cars is now in the dashboard of the iDrive. Not all garages have got the equipment to record the services they have completed in the iDrive, which means that you may not have evidence if they've lost the paperwork. My advice is, if you don't have evidence of a service, you've got to assume that it hasn't been serviced. So always buy a car, I don't care whether it's a BMW or something else, with good service history. They are machines, they do need lubrication, they do need looking after. The number of cars I see at auction with no history whatsoever. Now, as somebody who spends my life fixing cars, I can't overstate the need for good maintenance. If you want a good, reliable car to last you a good amount of time, it needs to be maintained. Fairly obvious. You'd be amazed how many people just want to put petrol in the car and drive it. And then when it breaks down, they say it's a crap car. Come on, guys, Look after your cars. Now, if you want more information on Minis and BMWs, head over to theminispecialist.com. We are an independent BMW and Mini specialist in the West Midlands. We have as well as publishing our servicing pricing, we have a range of video guides that you might find useful. The first lot here is how to access the service menus. Now these are for the Minis. At the moment I haven't got one on the BMW, but the menus are the same. The cam chain replacement on the Mini and the N13 then in the car that we've just reviewed is that one. Supercharger service, etc, etc. Now this is a 4-part video on how to repair the N47 diesel engine. Relevant to the 1 series we've just driven is the drivetrain error on the B38 and B48 engines, which is a good explainer there. The diesel fault on the fuel pressure sensor, I mentioned that in the video, and the exhaust back pressure sensor too. Okay, so these are useful things and we will be building these out as well. In summary, if you want to buy an F20 or F21 BMW 1 Series, I think I would go for the facelift diesels, if you want a diesel. The N13 engine is, I think, a decent engine provided it's well maintained, and there's plenty of those around now. The later 2015 onwards, still a good engine. Perhaps go for the 4-cylinder if you want a bit of performance. And that's it for now. See you in the next video.